Hello and welcome to the Wikipedia Weekly Network here, where Albin Larsson and I are editing Wikidata Live. Hello, Albin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a lovely day today. How are you, Jan?
I had a lovely day as well. It was sunny and nice here, and I actually could go for a little bit of a swim still.
Oh, in September.
Yes, unusual, but good. And
Right.
yeah, and what will you be editing today?
Not so much editing, but back a couple of months back, we did a bit about Wiki Loves Earth, and I had this idea about doing a bit of analytics for that. Make a write up essentially about what people are uploading, if it's from specific regions, or if it's about if there are special user patterns. There's some users select a different license, and I thought we would use structured data on commons to make a bit of queries to actually get started on a bit of a report like that. And what about you, Jan?
So I will also do a little bit of structured data on Commons, especially because there's a new tool that you can use. And we have been trying out a couple of different tools. This one is very different from these ones, but or the ones we've tried. But if you want to try see, I guess the ACDC tool or the structured data on Commons tool is SDC.
SDC? Yeah.
You can find them here in our big list of episodes where they are listed in where they are, and I think we have timestamps on all our videos as well. So you should
Yeah, and you can use search for structured data on commons, and each video should be tagged with it. And a couple of tools that John just mentioned, as well as like quick statements and a couple of the regular ones, but we use them for structured data on commons.
yeah. So you'll find that there, and also hello, Nicholas. Nice to have you here. So for anyone who is not really up to speed, I'll just show you first a little bit of what is structured data on commons, and so we have some sort of base. So this is an image I took this summer from a beach in Sweden, which happened to have and when you're on an image, you have this find information as default. So you have to actually click on the structured data tab here to see it. And this beach had an Wikidata item, so I could add depicts Granvik to it. And then you can also add other things like creator, and I think everything here was actually added by a bot. So I didn't have to do anything. So there's a number of bots on going around on Commons looking at the metadata and see, oh, what of this can we pull in as structured data?
Yeah.
So we get a lot of things for free. A lot of these things are also very technical. Really about what the camera does. But a few of them are really handy, like this coordinate where they are, and of course, what it actually depicts. And that is the tool that we're going to look at today, something that's doing depicts. And it has a really good name. It's called Depictor. So you really know what you want to do. And I'll see if I can share. No, that's not the one. I accidentally scrolled here. So you find it on this hey.toolforge.org/depictor. And of course, it will make edits to commons. So you have to give this tool authorization to do that. So you click the login and will pop up here. Will you allow it to do it? And yes, I want to allow it. That's why I'm here. Oh, no. Oh, auth token found.
Let's give it a hard reload. Oh, it might. No.
Right. So let's see if I. Oh no. This.
You might need to reload the tool itself before you navigate to this one. Let's try that.
Let's go here. Let's see if I can Of course, reload it first. Something went wrong during. Please try again. Okay.
Let's see, no red box yet.
All right. All right.
Great.
Some patience. That wouldn't have been great for this. All right. So when you come here, you get this little screen. You have a very brief instruction in the top, but that's the sort of the important part. So when you press start, you're assigned random people born in 1905. Check if your person is depicted in the given image.
Right.
So this is sort of like the totally automated mode. And I'm just going to show you what's actually happened. So I'm going to press start here. But first, there's also some sort of leaderboard. 24,000 statements right now. So we over 500 done today because it was 23,500 when we looked this morning. And I'm not even in the top 20 now. I'm being pushed out. All right.
All right. Let's see if we change that.
Perhaps. So you'll press start and it loads a little bit here. And over this time, it makes requests, I guess, both to Wikidata and to Commons. So sometimes it takes some time to update. So be a little bit patient. And what it now says is in the left image, it says we're working on Jack London. And this image is from the Wikidata item. And the image to the right is an image in that category. And it says small here. This is image 1 of 4 in this category. So now I'll have to say, is it this person? Or is it not this person? Or can't I tell? And do I want to skip it? And in this, I think actually the Wikidata item or image is so hard to tell, and I don't know this person. So I'm actually going to skip this item for now. And I actually suggest someone go and update the Wikidata item.
Yeah, if this is correct, that would make a lot better, much better Wikidata image.
Yeah, but I'm not going to fall into that rabbit trap again. So here's some really cool things. You can skip one image if you're unsure, but you can also skip the entire category or the person you're working on. So I'll just do that. So I'll skip it here. And it looked like nothing happened, but it's a little bit slow. And here now we're working on Rudolf Warnecke. And I think this one is easier. That's clearly an image of him and probably by him as well. So I'll press yes, he is depicted. And now, just to show you here what happened in the background, if I go to my contributions on Wikimedia Commons now, we'll see here there was actually an edit on the Rudolf Warnecke self-portrait. Created claim depicts Rudolf Warnecke, and it has a tag here also, so you can see all of them. So that's what happens. So just by that little one click. And here, this is, I would guess that's his gravestone, but that's also him depicted here. But now the question is here with the depict of depicts. So I'm unsure how we have this model, so I'm going to skip this one. This is obviously the same one, so here I can press yes. And here's also obviously the same image, lower quality though. So, and as you saw, I finished the category and then it just takes a new person. So I'll press yes on this one. It might be the same person. I'm not totally sure. It's probably the same person since it's in the same category, but it's also that's why we should do this. So I'm actually going to skip this one. And I suggest that you skip if you're unsure, because there's someone else who perhaps knows this person may come along. And this one is the same, so I'll go yes. And this is how you do it. You just do these things, and quite quickly you do do a lot of edits. And I see here Nicholas has about the grave here, should be depict grave off. Yes. So yeah. Well, it might be that it should be an image or an item for the actual sculpture, and the sculpture depicts it. So that's sort of the two-step I'm thinking of. Anyways, this is one of the modes this tool have. So let's go back to the start. So this is the one, and it's also some sort of randomness here. Now, if I would start it again, I would have a person born in 1969, but a little bit hidden underneath here. There's a show advanced options. So let's click that one. So you see we have three options. We can either go by selecting the birth year manually, and like if I want to work on a specific person. You could also go with a category, or you can write a Sparkle query. So we're going to try all of these. And I think these two second ones could be really useful in editathon or like events where you have newcomers who might not be wanting to do very complicated edits. And then this might be something. And for example here, for the category, you could go with something like, let's go with my hometown, Gimo.
Exactly. So now we aren't limited to persons anymore, right?
Yeah,
you can
select
essentially put
anything.
in whatever.
Yeah.
A building or like this small town.
And it also has this very nice, you can go a few levels deep, because sometimes not everything is in the first. I'm just going to try here with the first, see what we can get. Obviously, this is also a little bit hard, like what is depicting of an entire city.
Yeah.
So maybe I will actually go deep to see, get some more specific things in it. Maybe one is enough. And click start again. And we'll see what we get. Oh, now I get this, the church in the village.
Yeah. And so the church is probably a subcategory of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here I know there's a lot of interior images. So here is it, like, is this depicting it? Yes, it is, but from the inside. For this image, I think it's actually quite good depict of, because it's not a detailed image, it's sort of an overview. So here it seems useful to say yes, and so forth. I'll just skip that. Oop.
Oh, we only found one category.
There are no more items. All right, so this is how it looks when you come to the end. All right.
Oh,
very nice. So
yeah, because that is also a requirement, right? So the category needs to be on a Wikidata item.
Yes, exactly. And then let's go to the, and of course we can go, you can go, like if you're having an editathon on a theme, you could go with something wide as health, not capital, because that one will not find. And I tried here with 2, but there's too many subcategories, so you can only select 1, otherwise the tool takes forever to load.
Yeah.
And then of course here, it's also a bit more abstract, but it also is interesting how health is built up as a category system. So you will get some sort more very
diverse,
specific. Yes, right. Both diverse and specific. So, and now it's fetching. This was much quicker earlier today. Oh no. I'll go back to start.
Oh.
Now I'll try one a bit lower down. You could also go with COVID-19, for example, and maybe go one level deep and see what we get. If that's any quicker, yes. And then you can, I don't think this is a bad match, here I'll click no, and I hope this will be excluded in the future then, so no one else has to do it. Is this a COVID-19 test? Well, it looks like the test I have been taking, so yes, so I'm going to say yes. And yeah, you get the idea for how to do it. And now we're going to go to the really interesting part. Now we're going to go to the Sparkle query. So there's some really good instructions in the bottom here, because this tool needs a few things to actually be able to create this. So you have to select a few things. And thankfully, there's this sort of even start of a query. So we will just copy this and start from here and see what we can do for fun. So I'll go into the query service and I'll just paste this. And what this is actually doing is looking for different cats and stuff. But I don't want to go with cats, how nice cats are. I'm going to want to do something more interesting. So I'm going to delete that. So this is
that's a bold statement. More interesting than cats.
Yes, especially when doing something on the internet.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But these are all the things that we need for the thing, for the tool to work. So I will keep these. But one thing that I wanted to explore here is, because it makes a lot of sense to try to do these kind of tasks for things that you know really well, so that you look at the categories that you have some sort of knowledge on and can sort of like, yes, that image is that person, or that square is that square, and stuff like that, even if it is from an unusual angle. And that is what will help people. So we have a very nice service here in so I'll start write service here, and we have this Wikibase around, and I should of course click that in the right image, and it loads a bit of a boilerplate here things. But what's interesting here is, well, it looks for something named place. We're not having a place, we're having items. I'm going to change this one. And when this is also means that it only find items that actually has a coordinate, because the second one here is a coordinate. And then the cool thing when this one loads is it says here auto coordinates, which means it will try to figure out where I am when I run it. And if you run this, it will try to figure out where you are, sort of based what your browser knowledge is of your coordinate.
Yeah, I think it will show you a pop-up asking for your location.
And then I'm going to remove this distance because it's not used. Maybe it makes it some milliseconds quicker. Probably not a big difference. The one here is the radius from, as it says here, in kilometers. So this is 1,000 meters, and I'll go with that. So let's just run this and see what I get when from here from me. Oh, yes, and I get a pop-up here. Do you want to allow it? Yes, I want to allow it. And I get 1,100 results.
You're in a big city.
I am in a big city.
Oh.
And as we can see here, there's a lot of things. So now I can just load this into just copy and paste this one, go back into Depictor, and just run this, and it will work.
And then it will look at each item and pick the category on that item, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think the category based on that, because that was one of the things that we actually queried for here with 373 here. So this is a commons category.
Yeah.
Maybe this is too much with 1,100. We'll see. Should only really need to load the first one. But either way, we can also check if this seems reasonable, because we are asking for location here. So we can just add it to the top for our purposes here and run it again.
and display it.
And allow, can I not? Yes, so we can click. Oh, a bit slow. So if you click on this little thing, the eye here, you can select the map tool and it will try to render this so we can see. Oh, that was actually quite good that it's zoomed out because it showed the circle really clearly.
Indeed.
And we see it's not really centered on me. I'm further here down to the right, so it thinks I'm here somewhere, but that's not really the case.
Yeah.
But either way, there's a lot of monuments, old buildings, and every street also has an item, so that's why there's so much here in Amsterdam. Let's see if it... Oh, no. This was loading forever. Slow today.
Let's try it with a lower limit, maybe?
Yes. So that's also a trick. So we could go here with like limit, let's
100.
10.
Yeah, even better. Let's be on the safe side.
Yep. And then I'll have to go back here. Can I just go back to start? Yes. Show advanced. Go to the Sparkle query. Make sure here's the limit 10. Now see what we get. Or maybe you're all running this now and ToolForge is the ToolForge servers are hot.
I think there was a bit of problem on ToolForge earlier today. I got a couple of notifications that my tools went down temporarily.
Yes. Well, either way, this is the important thing was this. This is nice, which you can do to find something for yourself. But there was also the last trick I wanted to show you is, well, maybe we have an editathon and people are all from the same place, especially newbies, but we're not in that place right now. So the auto coordinates wouldn't work. How can I feed some other coordinates in here? Well, you could just add the coordinates here, but since we're in Wikidata, we can also query for coordinates. So we can say, well, let's say, I'll go with my hometown again. So I can ask for Imo here and see, well, yeah, there's the item for it. And then I want to have the coordinates. So coordinate location. And I'll assign this to something. I'll just call it chord. And then I have to change the auto coordinates here to feed in the chord. Now this one will pick up the coordinates of whatever item you put in here. And let's run it again here. Limit 10. Well, keep it. I don't think there is even 10. Oh, I should have told you this. For some reason, it now tries to, I guess, it tries to solve this first. So this one will time out. So I will have to give it a hint again. And I don't know why it does, but if I give it a hint, it will work.
Yeah, it would deprioritize the service.
Yeah. So, and giving it the hint is, we showed this the last week, but just start write hint and press the control space to get the entire little code snippet that you need. So this tells the optimizer in the query service that don't try to reorder this. I'm not sure if that's technically, but it feels like that's what it's.
Yeah, it's kind of what it's. It doesn't. It stops doing smart things.
Yes. Usually the smart things are helping, but as you see here, it timed out. And now if I rerun this, I will even remove the limit because I think this will be super quick. Yes, because there's only 3 results. I think if I go up here to 10 kilometers, we might get up to 15, something, 12. So yeah, this is it. Oh no, show it on the map. So this is how it might look like in a rural area where you're not in the center of Amsterdam and have a lot of items. You might have a few things only.
Yeah.
But I'm going to share this query link, and then you just copy and paste this back into the Depictor service. Unfortunately, we couldn't see it, but I think this is enough to get you started. So I'll put this in the banner here, and you can experiment and build other things from there as well. Let's see, did it come? Nah, still loading.
Still loading, okay.
Yeah. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you today, the Depictor thing, and how you can also feed it with all sorts of stuff.
Nice. So I am going to actually query structured data on Commons. And to do that, we need to head over to beta service, WCQS beta. And it looks like this. It's very similar to the Wikidata query service, but it has a couple of different things to it. And one of them is that it isn't updated every time you make an edit, so to say, which actually Wikidata tries it, not always achieving it, but it tries to update each time. For example, I think it currently just updates once a week, usually on Tuesdays. But it's not always super easy to figure out when was the last update, because it's also a beta service. It might not always update on the Tuesday, but we can actually write a small query. And I want to start with this before we actually start querying, because if you would head over here now and wanting to query, for example, what Jan just edited, it won't work because it hasn't loaded yet. So first of all, I want to check like how new is the data that I'm working with. So I'm actually going to write a query for that.
Ooh,
so it's a bit of it's a bit of a special one because we usually don't see this, for example, on Wikidata. I'm going to start with just a regular select where, something like that, and here I'm gonna. So essentially, this service contains information about the dumps it's loading. And I can say Wikibase, and I think we can just say dump. Something like that. And then we want to select the last one. And it's also using a namespace not that common, but it's actually on all Wikidata items. We don't use it that often in queries. Schema, it's a super common one, schema date modified. So when is the dump modified? I want the time for this, and I also want to make sure that I have the latest dump. So if I would run this, I would just get a ton of different dumps throughout the time. So I want to order it. Order by descending. I think. Let's hope that's right. We will discover that. And I want to limit it to 1 because I just want the latest one.
Yeah,
so I forgot the T.
In the descending.
Oh, right, in my variable. Yeah. So let's see here. I want to ask for Wikibase dumps. I want to know when it was last modified. I want to order it so I get the latest first. And I want to limit it to 1 because I only want that one. So let's run this. You see that it was last of August.
But we didn't see it because the banner was hiding.
Oh, the banner. So down here in the result, we essentially got one row. It's a 30th of August, 2021. So it should have been Tuesday last week, I believe. But this is just a quick and easy way to here we got the query, to just get to know how is the current data I'm working with. Is it old? Do my edits I made a couple of days ago, are they included here or not? Because sometimes you make edits and want to query them, but on Commons currently you need to wait a little while. So with this in mind, I know what type of data I'm querying on Commons. So I actually want to start doing a bit of work here, and I had this idea to make a bit of a write-up about Wikilabs Earth, the competition we had back in the spring, and like which areas are people photographing and which aren't they, and what could we change in the competition to have people take photographs of different areas, or do we see special use and patterns? Is it like super users which uploads hundreds of photographs that also shows more open license and most authors select the default and that type of thing? And I kind of want to get started on such analytics by starting to query the query service and see how far I can get. I imagine there's a bunch of data that I would need to work out in a different way, but I want to start here and see how far I get. So first one I would really like to do is to see how is the distribution between the licenses. So are people, so CC by SA is the default one. Are the OCHA ones even in use? So I want to do that, but I picked out one here, an image that took part in Wikilabs Earth, Sweden, one I took, just to see how we can inspect the data here. What information do we have to query? And just like Jan noted, you have to go from the file information to the structured data, and here we can browse it. So, for example, it would be great to pick here because it's super clear. We see the creator here, that it's me in this case. We see it gives like a URL for my username and such. We can see that it has copyright status. It's copyright but dedicated to the public domain by me. And here it's indicated by CC0. We can see when it was taken. We can see the source of the file. But this is not all the same things that we actually got in the query service, because the query service also contains a bit of technical data, which is automatically put here without the bots doing it. But most important here, I'm looking for this Wikilabs Earth 2021 in Sweden, because to just begin, I want to start by querying all the images that took part in the Swedish WikiLabs Earth competition. So this is a Wikidata item, and the property here participated in is also a Wikidata property, because Wikidata holds the properties for commons as well. I think we made an episode a while back on how to create a property proposal for commons. You can find our past episodes on this link here, in case you want to try that out. So essentially, I want to query for, let's go here. I'm gonna keep the boilerplate here, but remove the body of the query. So I want images, and I want them to have participated in, whoops, why do I get a large T like that? Wikilabs Earth Sweden. Participated in. And you can see our VDT, because it's stored on Wikidata as a properties. We use the same namespace. VD, because the competition itself is a Wikidata item, which we got here. And I'm going to copy the QID and do like that. So we will get 1800 results. Seems reasonable. Let's do a bit of license statistics to begin with. So here, I actually want to go back. We need a semicolon here. And then VDT, I think it was just license.
Mm-hmm.
So copyright license, I guess that's it. So this would give me the images followed by the license, but I want to see the distribution of them. So let's do, I want the license itself, but I want to count the licenses. So I'm gonna say count, let's do this uppercase, count license as, let's call that count. And importantly, a common mistake here, we need the group by. We want to group it by license so that the count ends up on the same row. The query would throw an error otherwise. So I think this would do the trick. Mm-hmm. Image license, count it, group by the license. Let's see. Yeah. So here we got a bit of an odd ordering because I didn't do anything about that. But other than that, it looks Right. A thing here to note, we don't get the label. And let's try what we would do on Wikidata here. So we would do service, Wikibase label, and we would add license label here. So if we run this, we would also add the aggregate here. So this is what we would do. And if we look at this now, we just got QID. So we might wonder, do none of this have English labels? That's unlikely for licenses like CC0, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because Wikidata information isn't included in the Wikimedia Commons query service. We could actually use this Wikibase label for the images to get a caption. So the caption is the label. They also have a description, but you can't see that. So most of them doesn't have it, but you can technically edit actually. So how do we go ahead and get the labels? Because I want to be able to see the licenses here. I could, because there are a few ones, I could click on them, but I need this anyway for my next query, let's say. So we actually need to be able to query Wikidata as well. And to do that, we actually need to query Wikidata as well. So I want to make this query, but beyond that, I want to make a second query. So to make a query within a query, you need to use a subquery. And I think Jan also showed this last week. You use like a second pair of brackets, and then you can load a query like this. So if I would, for example, do, let's see if I get this right here. So if I run this should run just like a regular query, but we have a query inside of a query. So we get the same here. The license label, of course, that's no longer here. I'm no longer trying to select it. So we don't even want that. And now I can make a second query. But here I need to do federated query, it's called, where I call a different SparkQL endpoint. And usually the endpoint has to be whitelisted. So if you're on Wikidata and try to query endpoint from a fancy company, and then it needs to be whitelisted, it needs to be open data, otherwise you can't query it. You could technically set up your own SparkQL endpoint and query whatever you want, but there are certain limitations. So to do this, we actually use the service keyword that Jan showed for the around, but that we also use for the label service and such. So if we start service here, we actually we give the service a URI rather than what we usually do, which is actually also a URI. So we can say here we just give the URL to the Wikidata SparkQL endpoint essentially, or any other SparkQL endpoint you would like to query. So I'm just gonna copy paste it in here. And that is that. So query.wikidata.org/SparkQL. And you can see this different from where you would go to make an actual Wikidata query, because the service that actually receives your SparkQL query is on /SparkQL. But inside of this query, we can actually start writing another query. So this query here inherits the values from the first query. So for example, we can access license here, which is what we want to do. And because we doesn't have the select here, we can actually not really use the label service that we're used to, but we can select a label the old classic SparkQL way instead of the fancy Wikidata way. So I'm gonna do that. This will also work in Wikidata. We want license, and the labels are actually stored within a couple of different properties, but one of the most common one is RDFS label. So here is the label. There's only one problem with this, that currently we're selecting all labels in all languages. So we need a filter here. So we need to filter for the lang being equal to English. And to do that, we need to get the language from the label. And you do that with the lang function. So we say lang label, and this returns that 2-letter string for the label, or a couple of languages has longer ones, even in Wikidata. And then filter lang, and I don't want as there. I want that to be equal to English. And this is essentially what the normal query service does behind the scenes. But even on Wikidata, you can query use this regular way, which is regular for someone like me, who is used to like good old SparkQL.
And there are some special cases in queries when it actually also is needed. I think
indeed
we have encountered that once or twice in our
yeah,
series.
exactly. There are some edge cases where this is a little bit more useful. Also, the label service has a couple of things you can do to give labels a different name or such things. We got a server error, so I missed something. That is not completely surprising. It happens. Let's see. Service URI is not allowed, it says. Yes, because in my copy paste, I missed the L. Let's run this. Here we got the licenses, so you can now pick up the labels because it does that from Wikidata. And let's do like an order by here. Order by the sending still, right? License account, we call that one. And I think that's it. So we see that very early analytics here is that Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 is the most common one. It's the default one for the Swedish WLE Earth. CC0, it's quite high. It's so
is that all you?
It's not all me, because I know at least 2 users who use CC0. And then we also got, so I imagine like I would need to do a bit of more analytics, but I would really like to categorize like users into these groups. So I think this is 2 users. I don't have data to prove this, but I think that's the case. So there are 2 users that generally upload a lot to WLE Earth, but chose us to share it under an open license. And I do not know what this is, but I imagine it's a similar case. Someone who makes a lot of uploads and decide to share them a little bit more open than under the share alike. But then there is also 2 things here which are unexpected to me, because in like the default campaign feature we got on Commons, you cannot select these old licenses. It's the WLE Earth is locked to this free. And even as recently as 2 years ago, I think it was only locked to by SA even. So I would like to really later on investigate this once. So that is something that I now put in my backlog for a bit of analytics. I'm gonna share the URL for this one for all of you, so you can play around with it. Maybe you have a Wikidata item for WLE Earth in your own country, or even you might modify this for WLE Monuments, which is currently ongoing in many places. So there is that. Another thing I think would be very interesting. So in WLE Monuments and WLE Earth, you can upload images you haven't taken during the month. For example, I spend the entire year taking photographs for WLE Earth and WLE Monuments and such. And that, I wonder how common is that? Are there many people that prior to the competition go through their archives looking for, do I have an image of a nature reserve and can I upload it? And that is the next thing I would really like to query for here. So
yeah, and Nicholas notes there's no image with WLE Monuments 2021, and we saw that the data was updated in August, so yeah. I don't think it starts earlier than September 1st anywhere, so that was expected.
Indeed. And even so, I think this was all done by bots, I think, and I think they run after the event. We see if it might be different this year, but So I want to query for, what did I say? I want to upload dates. I'm going to head back to this. Currently, I don't know the modeling on structured data and commons well enough to do this on my own. But I can see that, for example, I took this in April and not in May when the competition was. So I see that it's inception. I actually want to bring back my query. I want to base it just on this. I don't think I would need Wikidata labels for this, no. So I'm gonna, oh, can I use the diamond feature here? I could, nice. Alter guide, I want it slightly different, sorry. So I want the time when it was taken. I know that there was inception. That is it, and I need to think a bit about the visualizations here. So first of all, I want time. Yeah, I think I want to group them, otherwise I would just get 2000 timestamps, but I think I can count them. Let's try that. I think a lot of people upload some like the same, or takes many pictures the same days for Wikilab moments. So I'm gonna try to count this just. I think if I would run this and get 2000 times, then I wouldn't be able to visualize it properly. So I'm gonna group them like this, just like it with licenses. Could this be enough?
Perhaps.
Let's try this.
Yeah, see what you get.
So I got 318 different days. So the time precision on commons, it's actually a limitation in Wikibase, I think, isn't more than on the day. So that's really useful in this case, because we do not need to normalize it.
That seems correct. I think you did it right.
Yeah, I think it was correct. I see one thing I could improve here. I could actually say order by. Let's see, it would just be order by in this case.
Yes. How old is the oldest one? 1899. That seems unlikely.
Yeah, so this is an interesting case, because so you're only allowed to upload pictures you have taken yourself. Yes. And this, I don't think we have anyone this old.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Ignoring that, let's just see what the most popular day is. Actually, to check which the most popular day is, let's order it by count instead, just temporarily, and then desk. So no need to scroll there. Let's just change the query instead. So 84. Oh, this is very interesting. So it's November 2019. We got 84. So I think this is most likely the result from like one person, I would imagine, and then.
Also 30th of November. Perhaps that person did something wrong on the last image.
On the last image, indeed. Indeed.
Or
So it might be someone who did like a trip for a day and took a lot of images. It's also interesting because I imagine it might not have been someone who took part in Wikilab's Earth 2020, I would imagine, because then they might have uploaded it in the 2020 instead of 2019. Then we see a couple of May gets really popular. So when the competition is really affects when people take photographs, I imagine. And this in general is super interesting. But I also want to move back to visualizing it by time. Let's see if we can visualize it like along a timeline and actually use those powerful pre-built visualizations we got here. So that would be this one. Let's see. I'm not sure what the timeline will do with this aggregated data. Yeah, it would just do like this. It wouldn't be able to actually make sense of the count. But I think we can make a bit of our own timeline by using this. So it's not super easy to see here, but this is 1900 because this is the one we expect to be wrong. And then we can see here, this is 2021. At the end, we can see it piking just before. But we see this is essentially the pattern I'm interested in. So people usually look for in their archives at least someone for a couple of years back, but for very individual photographs. So here I already got something more for my write-up and analytics, like is this just a behavior among individual users, or is this a common pattern that a lot of people does? Because that would indicate, can we promote this more? Hey, upload your old photographs and that type of thing. So that is something I really want to have a look at later on. Now I know by using the Commons cursors that I have something to look into here. And that for me is a big win. Another thing I would really like to have a look at is, can we see when does people upload their photograph? Are they uploading it the last minute? Or are they like already on May the 1st starting to make, and then they do it in batches, like if they have a lot? Or does everyone do like with their school reports, does it the last evening? So let's back. So we can't actually, in structured data here, we can't see the upload date. But as I said, some information are like hidden. So I'm gonna show two tricks that also work on Wikidata to display like, hey, give me everything you know about this item, just for the raw data. So if we are on a Commons item or on a Wikidata item, we should have a link here which says concept URI. And we can copy this link, not go to it, but we're copying it. And then we get a URI for the actual item. It looks very different. It looks very similar on Wikidata. But we can append like a file ending here, like RDF, which gives us the raw data that SparkL is actually querying. So if I go to this, we got a bunch of things that we actually ask things for in SparkL. So if we, for example, take a look on this, we can see, we're going to close this one. So this one should, if we, for example, we search for, we can search for schema. We have seen this being used. So we previously used, for example, schema, what it was. We use schema date modified for the dumps. So it's a common schema here. This is what we're actually querying for. We can see that this is the item we would query, and this is the data it holds about that item. So it has the URL for the actual image, the width and height is, for example, the width and height is a good example. It's nothing you like add a property for, it just gets there automatically. So this is one way to try to find that things. We can see like things like the labels here as well, as such. But this might not be helpful to you that might not read RDF XML this way. So we're gonna query for this data as well. I'm gonna write the new here, select star, where, and then I want to, this URL I copied, the URI, I'm just gonna give it like that, or one can do like this. So you can replace this part with SDC, which is just a shortcut for that URL, just like use VD on Wikidata. And then I want to access like everything it has to, that this thing knows about. So I'm gonna say the item, the subject object, this is called predicate in RDF. So I'm gonna call it P, and I'm gonna say, hey, this is the subject, this is the image. Give me all the properties this have, not only like wiki-based properties, but also one as well. And it could contain anything. I just want to know what type of information exists on this. And this is what I get. So I get this type of like automatic ones, like the content size, it's essentially the file size, the content URL, where's the image, the encoding format, the height and width, the URL, and such. And I get this date modified, and I wonder if that would be the date of my upload. So we're gonna try that one out, but then I see that it's just the typical Wikidata ones, wiki-based properties that I can see in the UI. So this is my only like chance of it being in there. So I'm gonna copy that and see what it says. So I'm gonna just put that in there, and I'm gonna say date. I'm gonna run that, and I can see that this is June 2021, so it can't be the date of the upload because I would have needed to done that during the competition in May. So imagine that this, let's see, the edit history. So I can see a bot here in 9th of June. Did it match? It did. So it's the last time someone edited the page. So I can't actually get the upload date using Spark.l currently. That would be great, but I can't. So I would need to use some other tool to make that analytics. But this is a way you can see about all of that hidden data that might not be that apparent, like the width and height of an image and such, which is super useful, especially on Commons where there is plenty of it. But these types of tricks also works on Wikidata. So you can replace this with just VD and the Q number, and you can render everything about it. So that's a bit of an insight. And with that, I think I got a bit of a start for my analytics. I would still like to do a couple of things, like how is the distribution between the users? Like, are, let's see, 5% of the users making 70% of the uploads, and that type of patterns. I really go deep into, for example, I believe that the people that upload more are more likely to select more open license than the default one and things like that. So I will really continue to use the query service to do these type of analytics, and see what I can come up with. And maybe I will use the query service for the visualizations in the report as well, or I might put that at the side. I'm not sure. But this is a bit what you can actually use the Commons for, and a couple of tips and tricks there about getting to know when the data was updated and such. And I think with that should be all from me.
All right. So it looks like you might have to use perhaps Quarry or some other tool as well then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Quarry would be a good.
Yeah. All right. And I just want to, since you talked about federated services, if you want to check which ones are whitelisted, this URL will take you to a page on mediawiki.org, which lists all of them. And it's about 40 or 50 something right now. And if you have some Sparkle service that is external and you would like to see in it, there's also links to the instruction how to get them added and what their actual requirements are.
Yeah.
So you can check that out also. All right. And then I guess for next week, we're in the data quality days or week, or what is it called? Data quality days.
Yeah, data quality days, I believe it is.
Yeah. So we will sort of try to take a look at the constraints for properties in some kinds of ways.
Yeah, I think we will work a bit on editing actual constraint and just making them more than that small icon you often get when you make an edit. What is actually behind that icon? A bit like that.
Yep. And also see what it actually shows you in the interface, because sometimes these warnings are really good because they can give you editing tips as well. Like, oh, if I do this, I should probably do this. And so that's what they're there for. And with that, I guess, happy editing.
Happy editing, and see you for the Wikidata quality days.